Hello, everyone, and inside the latest Locked On Canadiens, we're making a tier list of NHL Draft possibilities.
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1089 of Locked On Canadiens, your daily Montreal Canadiens podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you get your team every single day of the week, wherever you get your daily podcast, Google, Apple, Spotify, or on youtube.com, if that is where you are watching right now. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Some terms, of course, do apply. And you might be wondering, Scott, you're alone. And you might be wondering, who the hell's Scott? I am Scott Matla. I am your host du jour for today and about the next 2 weeks, as my co-host is off enjoying a well-deserved vacation at this point. So I am flying solo. We've got plenty to get through. We've got player reviews, more draft stuff to go through. I'm working on lining up some guests to bring them on to record with myself in some of these episodes and so much more. And I was thinking, did I want to do more player reviews today? Did I want to do another mock draft? And thinking on the mock draft, because I wanted a little bit more time to prepare for this one and go through it and really think my way through this. And I went, you know what? What if we broke down the draft possibilities for the Montreal Canadiens into a tier list? And not that I think a lot of the picks that can be made here, but, I'm going to call it S tier is the best. What I think, the best level is for that. A tier, just below that, probably the next best option. B tier, not bad, not my favorite. And then everything else after that, I'm just considering basically a disaster for the Canadiens at that point, if they haven't landed something in those top two parts there. And the biggest thing is I want to jump right into the S tier list here. Right off the bat here, the best possible outcome and best picks I think the Canadiens can make. And I've narrowed it down to what I believe are three forwards. Forwards is I'm going to put that in big, bold, italic, squiggly, flashing wingdings, whatever you want to call it, lights. Because this is what I believe is the S tier of possible picks for the Canadiens. Assuming at this point that we know Macklin Celebrini and Artem Levshinov are both gone from this draft, and likely Anton Salayev. And we're not actually, ignore defense entirely in this one. Let's just be very clear with that. I've narrowed it down to three forwards that I think if the Canadiens pick one of these three forwards, they have struck gold with their first round pick here. Like, they have stepped up, and Kent Hughes just hit a dinger straight out of the Big O, which I don't think is possible because there's a roof, but architecture was never my thing, let alone Expos baseball and architecture. And we're going to start right with the one, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, Ivan Demidov. Just so much skill, so much talent, everything the Canadiens need in a forward, that if the rumors are true and he is going to fall slowly down the draft board, like Matvei Michkov did last year, it's to the Canadiens' benefit this year. Is that if Levshinov goes 2, Salayev goes 3, it's up to Columbus to kind of maybe throw a wrench in the Canadiens' plan if they really actually like this player. And I think that they do. Indications are like anything that they're not going to take him, but nothing that they are going to take him, because they are very close to the chest on everything. But if, let's say, Columbus opts for Caden Lindstrom, which would not be surprising, I think Ivan Demidov being right there in that 5th overall pick spot is a home run for the Montreal Canadiens. Absolute S tier pick. Skill, scoring. He will be here sooner than expected. We talked about this in yesterday's episode, and I highly recommend you give that a chance and go check that out and look at that, because there's so much you can do with that, or you can do with him down the line in the future there, with talent that you can put him on line 1, and maybe you bump Caulfield down to line 2, or Slafkovsky down to line 2 with Kirby Docker and Alex Newhook. you have options, which actually leads me into a name that I just mentioned that we talked about on Monday's episode, Caden Lindstrom, who I think is potentially, I go back and forth between him and my other S tier player in here. And I look at Caden Lindstrom and I go, this is everything that they saw in Uri Slafkovsky all over again. A little bit more injured, not playing in a men's league there, but just all that physical nastiness, that scoring touch of a great head on his shoulders off the ice as well. All the hallmarks of what makes a great Montreal Canadiens player and what this new regime of can I even call them a new regime at this point now that we are about to be 3 drafts in at this point, but all the earmarks that are hallmarks, bookmarks, birthmarks, whatever you want to call of a player who I think the Canadiens would love to see at 5th overall. There are, yes, maybe some concerns about the back injury, but you have a good training staff. You have the tools to help him get healthy and get back to reaching his potential. He's going to go back to junior next year. There is no rush to get any of these players into the NHL or AHL this year. None. Nor should there be, because the Canadiens do not need that. And I look at Caden Lindstrom, someone who's physically very gifted. He is a teenager in a full man's body right now. Talking to him at the combine, he's built, he's strong, he's nasty on the ice. He is Slafkovsky with somehow more attitude, if that makes sense, on the ice, and extremely well, the nicest person off of it. Definitely at 5th overall, if Columbus goes for Demidov, I am looking at Caden Lindstrom as that guy if I'm the Montreal Canadiens. I think that he is everything that they're looking for, a big power scoring winger. I know that we have Slafkovsky, and I know that there's the lingering specter of Josh Anderson and such, but this is a few years down the line when the cap has gone up. Some of these players are not Uri Slafkovsky, but like some of these other names are gone, and you have opened up a window to put Caden Lindstrom in there, potentially with a guy like Owen Beck as his center. Maybe it's still Kirby Dach. Maybe Alex Newhook is adjusted to being a full-time center. Maybe you have Suzuki, Slafkovsky, and Lindstrom all on one line. Doesn't that sound fun? It sounds fun to me. And then, like I said, I've gone back and forth. The third name, I think, in terms of draft picks at that third tier spot, or the S tier spot, the third guy in there is TJ Ginla. I want to read a quote from Cam Robinson, who has been talking to NHL scouts today about why I think that I really love TJ Ginla, an NHL scout. And this comes from @hockey_Robinson, Cam Robinson from Elite Prospects. I'm betting he's the next best in this class after Macklin Celebrini. Already overwhelming in puck pursuit, elite handles, great shot, physical, and he's got his dad's attitude. That puck is his and he wants it. I could not possibly love a description of a player more. Relentless in pursuit of the puck. Love that. Love a player who busts his ass to make plays happen. And not only that, he works hard to get the puck, control the puck, dominate control of the puck. And then he does things with it to put it in the back of the net. Watching him do his physical testing was impressive because he is 17 years old, and a lot like Caden Lindstrom, there's just another level to his growth in his game there. He's a scary physical player that he will absolutely dish it out, and then he'll score a goal. He'll run you over and then score a goal. And I don't want to make the comparison seriously, but in my mind, when I read that description, I think of the Tkachuk brothers, namely Matthew Tkachuk. He wants the puck. He wants to be physical. He's got the great attitude that he wants to make plays. He cares. He has all this passion for the game. TJ Ginla is my third and final piece in that S tier there. I think that the Canadiens adding him to this lineup in a couple of years when some more players have matured just a bit and giving him that role that, whatever role he earns on whichever line is going to make him an absolute monster. I love the idea of TJ Ginla, Montreal Canadien, not just because it's an Ginla, but Read that description again. Read the draft quotes about him. Watch the videos. Listen to him interview. He's a Pegasus. Watch how he's going to fly. I cannot wait to see. If it's not the Canadiens, I'm going to be sad unless they've ended up with Lindstrom or Demidov, which are in my S tier. I am happy with any of these. TJ Ginla, I think, is my draft crush, closely followed by Caden Lindstrom, just because I think they're exactly what the Canadiens need. But we're going to do the fun thing now. We're going to dive into the next tier. Best player available? Maybe it's a defenseman. Maybe it's a forward. Find out coming up next. But first, as I said off the top of the show, today's show is brought to you by Game Time. It's the middle of baseball season. It's the hockey NHL finals going on. The NBA finals are going on. Euros are right around the corner if you're one of our European listeners. And Game Time is here to help you find tickets for everything that you are possibly looking for and making it as easy as possible, whether it be concerts, shows, games, whatever. They have last-minute tickets that get cheaper closer to the start of your event, flash deals, zone deals. You can buy tickets for anything, and you'll see the views from your seat. And when you go to cash out and use your promo code in this, you're not getting hit with hidden fees. You are paying the price you see on Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Some terms apply. Again, create an account and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Game Time. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. We are back, and by we, I mean I am back here at Locked On Canadiens. I am, of course, your host, Scott Matla. We will be back tomorrow. I am going to kick into the player reviews tomorrow because, well, we have a lot of them, and the summer is going to get very short rapidly with the draft in 2.5 weeks. So we're going to dive into maybe some of the guys who are in the last year of their deal, fringe players, stuff like that. That'll be in tomorrow's episode. But someone raised a very good point on Twitter today, and I'm sorry I don't have the tweet offhand, but it's actually kind of what inspired this is, let's say Chicago takes Levshunov, Salayev goes there, or they take Demidov, and then Levshunov goes there, and a bunch of these other forwards are gone for whatever reason. Let's say Anaheim takes a forward and not a defenseman for whatever reason here, and you are the Montreal Canadiens, and you come up to the podium at 5th overall, and in front of you, you've seen Celebrini be drafted, you've seen Demidov be drafted, you've seen Lindstrom be drafted, and you've now seen also maybe TJ Ginla drafted. Maybe there's like Salayev or Levshunov is drafted in there, but you're coming up there, and those S-tier forwards are no longer on your board, and you're kind of faced with the eternal question: do I draft for a need here? They need a forward. They need forward help in this prospect pool in Montreal. Do I make a little bit of a reach and go to that next tier down of forwards, which and players, which we will get to in the next segment a little bit, and maybe make a little bit of a reach, trade down even? Or do you take the best player available? And in that point, you are looking at solely on defense. You are looking at, depending on which one of Salayev or Levshunov did not get picked, you are looking at Zane Pareka. You are looking at Sam Dickinson, a name that we've heard a little bit of in trade rumors that I do not want to address on this show, Zeev Buyam. And this is kind of where I actually, and I am going to change my tone a little bit on this, because I said famously on this show, I believe, if they take a defenseman, I'm just going to scream and run outside to be hit by a bus. But I look at some of the defensemen in this draft and realize they are very, very talented. And I was maybe a bit dismissive in my analysis of them because I really want this team to draft a high skill forward. But I am looking currently at the way it's broken down in here. Sam Ivan Demidov is at second. Artem Levshunov is the highest rated defenseman. Then Dickinson, Anton Salayev, Zeev Buyam, Zane Pareka, and then Carter Yakimchuk. are all names that I've seen tied to the Canadiens, some that are maybe a little bit of a reach. And I look at this and I go, it's not the worst thing I've seen. And I could actually potentially really get behind this idea if knowing that with 26th overall, they're swinging for the fences. They're going Michael Hage, Teddy Stiga, Cole Baudin, Andrew Basha, etc., going that direction on there. And I think in this second tier, because I think that instead of reaching for a forward, someone like a Consta Hellenius, a Cole Yzerman, Beckett Sennecke, Michael Brand-Nygaard, etc., who we'll talk about in the next segment a little bit, that you can add another very quality piece to this group, and it allows you to have a replenishment, let's say 2 years down the road, generously. I'm using 2 years as just a very general window for things. That if you're looking at this group, if Engstrom isn't the guy that you need him to, if Koniushkov isn't that guy, if Gooley or Jack-Eye or whomever doesn't take that step forward here, you are having another guy coming in that you can plug in that is of a high caliber that can play at an NHL level. And I think all these prospects coming in, most of them are NHL quality defensemen at this point. Adam Engstrom is an unknown for me. Had a very strong season in Sweden and everything. I want to see him play at the NHL level. I want to see him in the preseason. He's someone I'm watching very closely because he's played pro hockey. Can he make that adjustment? And if not, I think in terms of my listing on here, I'm coming around slowly on the idea of Sam Dickinson, but at the same time, and I made this allegory to a Ducks fan who was asking me about this because I was at the Combine, and I went, if you're picking in the top 5, it's like you are showing up with a wad of cash from the lottery to the Ferrari store. And yes, Ferrari store, dealership, whatever, with a wad of money in your hand to buy whatever you want. And you're looking and there's a 458 or there's some of the classics. And you walk around, you see in the used lot, you see a really nice Honda Civic. And you go, okay, it's maybe not the flashiest thing, but it's going to get the job done effectively and like with startling regularity. I don't know as much about Anton Salayev, to be quite honest. I have not watched a lot of the KHL hockey, and I don't want to comment on someone I haven't watched play a lot. But having watched the OHL playoffs and a lot of the Saginaw games to watch Owen Beck play, I've become impressed with Sam Dickinson. I could also see Zeev Buium being that guy. He was a stable piece on the U20 team that won a gold medal, won a national title with Denver. Just a very solid player. And then Zane Pareka is probably the best offensive defenseman in this draft. You could do a lot worse at 5th overall than adding another quality back end piece, because some of these guys are going to age out or not hit their potential, and you're going to want a ready-made replacement. You can, and it's one of the few things that I actually can agree with Mark Bergevin on. You can never have too many defensemen. We've seen injuries. We've seen other things. I think reaching for Yakimchuk is not high on my list, to be quite honest. And I don't know if the Canadiens, quite frankly, will go for Zane Pareka, even though I think that his defensive issues are overblown. I think that it's between Dickinson or Buium when they pick. And I could likely be very wrong on that. But that's kind of that second tier, the best player available, and it's likely going to be a defenseman if, for whatever reason, Demidov and Lindstrom go before that. I would still say pick TJ Ginla, but if you think that's going to be a reach and the best player available is Anton Salayev, Artyom Levshinov, Zane Pareka, Zeev Buium, Sam Dickinson, I guess you go with the best pick there. And I know that's not going to be popular. This isn't super ideal on my list, but I understand it. And the logic makes a lot of sense to me. That if you have a surplus of things too that other teams want, quality defensemen, quality young, cost-effective defensemen, you can make a lot on that when you need to down the road. We are going to transition in to our final segment, though. This is the fun one because this is everything else. This is the other tier of what I would consider disastrous and what I would consider reaching, but within reason, I think. And we're going to get into that coming up next. Today's show is also brought to you by the folks at Policy Genius. Life insurance can give you and your family peace of mind, especially when so much out there is unpredictable. But good life insurance gives your family a financial safety net to protect them against some of those unknowns out there. And with Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at $292 per year for $1 million worth of coverage. Some options are 100% online and avoid unnecessary medical exams. It's not fun to sit there and think about what's going to happen when you are gone in the future, or are you prepared for the future if the unexpected happens, and then sifting through all of these things from insurance companies. Policy Genius helps you easily compare all your options from America's top insurers in just a few clicks, and their award-winning agents can talk you through the process step by step. So get peace of mind by finding the right life insurance with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quote and see how much you could save over at policygenius.com. We are back here at Locked On Canadiens, and this is where things get murky. This is the third tier of maybe you're reaching because it's a need, but this player is still a quality player and would make sense to potentially pick them, but it would be considered potentially a reach. Sometimes just a little bitty reach. It's a reachette versus you have reached across the Champlain Bridge to pick this player here. And the first name that's going to come up here, and I don't think this is a reach in terms of rankings, but I think just because of the way I've heard nothing about this player with the Canadiens, is Berkeley Catton. Catton said he interviewed with the Canadiens, gave them an answer to the animal question where he said he's a Dolphin. We talked about it on Monday. Berkeley Catton is in this group. Cole Yzerman is in this group. Consta Hellenius is in this group. And Beckett Sennecke is in this group. Just outside of that would be Liam Greentree, Trevor Connolly, and Michael Brandsegg-Nygaard. I think they are. I've heard Connolly's name, and I don't love the idea of reaching for him at 5th. And there's other reasons why I don't really love the idea of going for that pick that I'm not going to get into on the show because that's not what we're here for. But I look at Berkeley Catton, who is, I believe, one of just the highest scoring players in the entire CHL this year. An incredible centerman, great playmaking vision, great shooting option. He's got a lot in his toolkit to make things happen. 116 points is nothing to scoff at on the Spokane Chiefs this year. 116 points in general is nothing to scoff at. And I look at some of the guys that he was behind. Jagger Firkus, who's in his draft plus 1 year. Zach Funk, overage player. Riley Height, not an overage player, but playing with Zach Funk. Berkeley Catton is the highest undrafted player. Below that is Andrew Cristal. He outscored a guy like Connor Geekie, 99 points, draft plus 1 year. He outscored TJ Ginla even in this. Ginla played 64 games and Catton played 68, so 4 more games, but 116 points compared to 84 points. They're a different type of player, but I think Catton, just because of the lack of any smoke around this player in Montreal, makes me think that he is their, pull cord in case of emergency kind of player. Right after that, Cole Yzerman. Cole Yzerman is potentially the best pure goal scorer in this draft class. I think he's got a ridiculous shot. He knows how to use it. He's added a physical dimension to his game, but there's not a lot of other dimension to his game. The thing about Cole Yzerman is his one dimension is a very, very good one. USNTDP goal scoring, record holder in a career. He is very, very good at scoring goals. The Canadiens need someone who is very, very good at scoring goals. Cole Yzerman at one point was likely a top 5 pick. The lack of evolution in his game has dropped that a little bit. there's maybe not as much playmaking ability as you might hope for a guy who has the puck so often. But I think that if they pick him, they are banking on him developing and turning him into the new age power forward. Think Leon Draisaitl with less defense in there. The next one, and this is the name that has been lingered around forever, is Beckett Sennecke. I have come to terms with understanding it. It is not my favorite pick, but I have come to understand why the Canadiens are potentially interested. He's grown a ton in the last year, and the back half of his season with Oshawa was stunning as a winger. Ankle-breaking winger who combines deft playmaking, manipulation, powerful net drives, and puck thievery skills to control the game. Overwhelmingly confident puck handler, grounded in solid technique with an unlocked top arm and fast twitch hands. Very good as a playmaker. All of that sounds very good, and that comes directly from the Elite Prospects Guide and on their website. And the only thing holding me back from being like, I am all in on this, is the Canadiens need a goal-scoring forward. They desperately need someone besides Suzuki and Caulfield and Slavkovsky, hopefully, to score the goals on this team. And maybe it's Alex Newhook. Maybe Kirby Dach comes back next year and puts up 25 goals. Who knows? But I look at Beckett Sennecke's profile and I go, wow, an elite power forward playmaker. That sounds great. Crap, who is he passing to? If you're going to add this player, I need scoring help opposite them at some point. Somewhere. A pure goal-scoring type. Even if it's a go to the net and tap it in kind of guy, power play, whatever you want to call it. Someone to actually make use of these skills. Because if you just have a bunch of guys who are going to pass the puck back and forth, sooner or later, someone's got to shoot. And I'm begging you to do that. I understand every little bit why the Canadiens are interested in this player. I've come to terms that it's likely going to be the pick. I don't love that is potentially the case, but I understand it. And the last option in this group is Konsta Helenius. Probably potentially the safest option in this group. He is a bulldog. Every scout I talked to at the combine and prospects person says he's just a pain in the ass to play against. You do not have fun playing against Konsta Helenius. He works hard. He hustles. He gets to the right areas. He loves to pad along the boards and everything. He will fight you for every puck and every bit of space. He's my last one in this group. Sitting like just outside, like I said, is Brandstad Nygaard, Leon Greentree, Trevor Connolly. And then there's a gap in that if they pick anyone outside of those groups, I'm starting to go, you've reached way too hard. And you have a lot to make up for with 26th overall, or you're trading up to get somebody else in this group here. I still think TJ Ginla is my ideal pick. Any of Lindstrom, Ginla, and Demidov are fantastic. I understand the idea for Beckett Sennecke. I do. I understand the reasoning potentially behind taking a defenseman, but I want to hear from you. What does your tier list look like in terms of players? You can tweet us at LO_Canadiens and let us know. We love hearing from everybody. You can tweet us at gmail.com as well. Tweet me at Scott Matla on the app formerly known as Twitter. That's going to do it for our show. Tomorrow, we're starting player reviews. As always, you can find us wherever you get your daily podcast, Google, Apple, Spotify, and beyond, or here on YouTube.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you all tomorrow.